Orion is one of the busiest stations on Roblox Island, owned by Rails Unlimited themselves. Not only does it have to serve high-speed trains, subways, and commuter trains, but slower moving goods trains as well. Now, usually things would run pretty well in Orion, but if you were to ask the citizens of Orion, they would think differently on March 11th, 2017, after two Conrails collided with each other, starting a huge fire. It was a late afternoon on the island of Roblox and in the town of Orion. Everyone was pretty much leaving work and stuff and taking the trains home. Down the line was a Conrail coming from Memorial Fields and was destined to go to Possum Springs in Michigan. There were two crew members on board, Kevin Rushton, the engineer, and conductor Jason Stone. They were in Conrail 6008. The train was carrying 3 boxcars containing tires, magazines, pipes, and all that other stuff. Down in Pinewood, there was another Conrail destined to head for Washington, D.C. The locomotives were 8098, which was leading, 1980, which was the second unit. The train consisted of 10 Eamskip containers, 11 tanker cars, and 32 Tropicana fruit freight cars. The crew was engineer Alex Schneider, conductor Gio Lopez, and brakeman Oliver Hart. Conrail 8098 was supposed to go on to track 1 by a switch. After they had switched to track 1, the other Conrail could pass through. Meanwhile, Conrail 6008 is waiting at the Orion station for the other Conrail to pass through. There are over a dozen passengers waiting for the next passenger train to pick them up. The crew of Conrail 8098 were unfamiliar with the route and were quite new to it, so they didn't know where the switch was and whatnot. As Conrail 8098 was approaching the Orion parking area, it was supposed to switch on to track 1 by now. But however, like the Frontier Mega Collision to come within the next year, this did not happen, and the train stayed on track 2. Up ahead, Conrail 6008 hears a milepost detector going off. The milepost detector was saying that the other train was still on track 2, and the crew decided to bail out and warn the passengers. The crew of Conrail 8098 realize this, but their train is going at 90 miles an hour. There was no way a collision could have been prevented now. The only thing the crew could do now is put on the emergency brakes and jump out of their moving train. The passengers at Orion see 8098 coming towards them and they begin to run for their lives. The station master at Orion attempted to change the switches, and it changed to the other track, but Conrail 8098 was on the switch, and it only made things worse. Conrail 8098 was on the switch while it was switching them onto the other track, which caused the whole train to derail and crash onto the station platform. The train hit into one of the concrete pillars holding the roof, causing part of the roof of the Orion station to collapse, while hitting into 3 passengers and spraying fuel onto 10 passengers before hitting into Conrail 6008, causing a massive explosion. And the fuel from 1980 splashes into the forests below, causing a forest fire. It took 4 days to take out the whole fire. In the end, thankfully, nobody was killed, but Brakeman Oliver of 8098, including 11 passengers, were seriously injured. Engineer Alec and conductor Geo, including 40 more passengers, had minor injuries. But however, Jason Stone, including the engineer, were unharmed. Then there's the question, what caused this accident to happen, and why? Well, it was later revealed the accident was caused by a faulty signal. Since the signal could not work, the switch could not work. It was also later revealed that the signals haven't been replaced for over 30 years, and they could have easily been fixed. Conrail sued Rails Unlimited for this because Rails Unlimited was very capable of fixing their signals, but decided not to. Rails Unlimited had to pay for all the damages, including the passengers' injuries and Brakeman Oliver's brain damage he had after jumping off of the train and hitting into a metal pole. Conrail 6008 was split in half from the explosion and impact and was scrapped. One of the boxcars were damaged beyond repair as well, but the other 2 were alright. 8098's undercarriage and fuel tank were badly ruptured, damaged, and burned. But despite that, it was able to be rebuilt and operates to this day. 1980 suffered major cab and nose damage as well as a ruptured fuel tank, but was rebuilt and then later in 2019 put into storage and may never run again. 3 of the Eamskip containers were damaged beyond repair and scrapped, while the other ones still are here to this day. The oil tankers suffered minor damage and didn't leak, and still operate to this day as well. And the same with the Tropicana fruit freight cars. The Orion station has been rebuilt and now looks a lot better. And the forest has been replaced with a bunch of houses. It has been a little over 2 years since this crash occurred. And thankfully accidents like this don't occur as often.